So we got to start with the Yankees because woof. I mean, woof. We knew things weren't going well with this team, but if you needed a week to just drive this point home and crystallize just how far off course the Yankees have gotten, well, you witnessed it over the weekend. And 2-8 in their last 10, Jerry just told you, and bookended by sweeps at the hands of the Tigers and the Red Sox with a split with the Rays in between. And, man, does this look bad. And when the pitching is only okay and the bullpen shows they're actually human, I mean, it really looks bad. And what's so difficult about watching the Yankees is it's not just one thing that's hurting them, although the hitting really is the main culprit, but you have players who are out of position. As a result, they are a bad defensive team. They are a bad base running team. They are so constantly living in fear of injuries, especially to Stanton and Judge, that they aren't always able to put out their best lineup. And Aaron Boone has talked about having a sense of urgency. Well, the Sharks are starting to circle around Aaron Boone. I mean, this team is not improving defensively, and some kind of interesting bullpen decisions over the weekend. The bizarre scene where Rougned Odor gets called out on a strike that was 5 inches outside the strike zone, and it's like every other coach but Boone getting tossed. And I know Boone just got ejected on Thursday, and he gets his money's worth when he needs to. But it was just a weird look on national TV against a rival. Like, it might not be fair, but admit it, it was odd. It didn't look good. And I think and you can tell me because you're the big Yankee fan on the show, what's giving Yankee fans even more agita than just watching the games is I don't know how many believe the big move's coming. You know, Luis Severino coming back, but from a major injury. How many Yankee fans out there really feel like the big move to save this team is coming? And honestly, what is that move even? Because you've got so many different issues on this team that getting Luke Voit back is not going to solve this, right? I don't even know if trading for a Trevor Story solves this. Like, there's so much here and so much that has gone sideways for the Yankees. They're not a move away from getting this all back on track. So I have to feel that Yankee fans must be at an all-time high in terms of frustration level. Now you're 60 games in, and you got to be looking at the manager, you got to be looking at the general manager and the players as this trifecta of terrible that has happened, and that has the Yankees in 4th place in their own division, and it just looks awful.
Yeah, they're a terrible baseball team. I mean, they just are. I mean, we can get into, what they should do, or, is it a case of, how many wholesale changes that they can make. This is intolerable. I mean, it really is. They're not only, not only are they just a couple games over 500, they get embarrassed by the Boston Red Sox this weekend, get swept away. They're going on the road to take on Minnesota and others before they come back home. Aaron Boone talking tough after the game on a lot of different levels. When you look at this team, you say, okay, well, when exactly is this team, because we're through 60 games now, when exactly is this team going to start playing better baseball? Overall, when are they going to stop hurting themselves? How many ground ball double plays are they going to hit? How many times are they going to have a fielding error? How many times are they going to have a base running gaffe? How many times are you going to look at the manager and say, well, why the hell are you taking out Domingo Germán, who was cruising along after 5 2/3 innings of work? What are you going to do here? And it's not about the lineup and availability, yes, because the Yankees do have the fear of God about Giancarlo Stanton and or Aaron Judge of those guys suffering a significant injury and being lost for the season. But we also saw this team be able to win baseball games when those guys were not part of it and were out of the lineup. This team has scored 100 runs less, comparatively speaking, when you look at 60 games, over a regular season, 60 games, in 2019 as compared to where they were this year in terms of run production. They've been downright terrible. So you look at the overall sloppiness of this team, the overall karma around this team. When you look at it, okay, well, you can't change the entire team. That's an impossibility, right? So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to look at the manager. You're going to look at Aaron Boone, who's a nice guy. I mean, Aaron Boone is as nice of a guy as the day is long. And I'm not telling you that he's not a great communicator and doesn't have his players back, sometimes to a fault in the way that he rationalizes things after games. And we've been down that road and talked about it. But exactly what do you do here if you're Brian Cashman, who during the course of the offseason said, he'd like Aaron Boone to be his forever manager and doesn't want Aaron Boone to go anywhere? Well, you look at the way that this team is playing. How long do you watch it? How long do you watch it before you say something's got to change here? I can't change every single player, but the direction of this team has got to change. When do you hit that point? It's not a sweep against the Tigers. It's not a sweep against the Boston Red Sox. When do you hit a point here? Because not only are they just an average team. I mean, they're slightly above it at 2 games over. They're a bad baseball team. They're a bad watch. They're a boring watch. They're not scoring runs. There's been little to no adjustment to this team. I mean, it's a comedy of errors watching, the pop fly into short right field yesterday that gets misplayed by DJ LeMahieu. I mean, but we've seen it time and time again, whether it be Gleyber Torres, whether it be DJ LeMahieu, whether it be the way that they shuffle around the infield, whether it be Gary Sanchez not understanding don't run to third with a ground ball hit in front of you. You've seen the Yankees run into 28, 29 outs as a team here through the first 60 games. So if they're not playing crisp, clean baseball, if they continue to play sloppy baseball, if there continues to be a malaise around this team, well, I mean, then you look at the manager. I mean, because, at some point, you got to say, well, clearly the messaging is not getting through, right? It's not getting through. They split the series against Tampa. We talk about Garrett Colstar on that Thursday afternoon in which he was downright terrible, spin rate low, the messaging from Major League Baseball saying we're going to go after pitchers and everyone kind of raising an eyebrow with that, even though, the Yankees will tell you that one has nothing to do with the other. It's just a bad Garrett Cole start. And then you get this weekend where in a comedy of errors in a lot of different ways, the Yankees get swept by the Boston Red Sox, a team that I had little to no expectations coming into the year. Hell, I even told you on Friday when we were doing this show, I need to see more from the Boston Red Sox. Well, they showed me it this weekend. I mean, Boston's not going anywhere, obviously, in the American League East, and I continue to tell you that I think this Yankee team is a good baseball team, and they continue to stumble over themselves. So when do you hit a point here where, if you're Brian Cashman and company, where you say, enough's enough? Like, something has got to change. You can't change every single player. Maybe you make a bold move by trading some of your young assets down on the farm and add another player of significance to this team. But that's just one player. Clearly, when you look at this group and you look at the way that they're playing, are they playing their best baseball? Do they get in their own way time and time again? That's the infuriating aspect, and we've seen teams do this before. What needs to change? I'm not telling you that Boone can't manage. I think there are issues with him as an in-game manager, but the direction for this team and the way that it's going right now, Maggie, is not up. It's going down right now. Yeah. It clearly is. And they're not getting better. They're getting progressively worse.
Well, and so that's my thing, though, about, Boone and the messaging, right? Because I hear you. You would say, the team's not getting that message. They're saying the same things kind of over and over again, at least publicly. We're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around. We're going to get better. But we have no evidence of this. We've got a stretch. They went 19-6 at one point, during late April into May. But that feels like it was a long time ago. And the pitching staff was, out of their minds good at that point, maybe to a point that was not sustainable. So is it the messaging, or is it simply the fact that you have so many players who are out of position? And you talked about that DJ LeMahieu not being able to catch that pop-up. Isn't that actually Clint Frazier's ball? Shouldn't he actually be charging in out of right to take that ball as opposed to an awkward catch by DJ LeMahieu that still probably should have had?
LeMahieu's got to make that catch.
I know, but still, I think that's Clint's ball. And even, Miguel Andujar, who I think has actually done a very admirable job in left field, but he has a bad gaffe on Saturday night where he was not feeling the wall because he's inexperienced out there. You have Gleyber, who we've talked over and over again, is he a shortstop? So it's you have guys who are out of position. Is it the messaging, or is it that this team just doesn't fit? And so you're talking about whether it's really the manager's fault, or you are talking about whether or not it's the general manager's fault.
Well, blame goes all the way around, but, this is not – we're looking at one metric being the defense. It's not just been the defense. So you're right. There are guys, square peg, round hole. Does the puzzle fit? You're having guys playing out of position, so you're expecting the offense to pick it up. The offense isn't.
Nope.
And then you look at the way that this team is maybe stressing or pressing and the way that they are, and the way the coaches, obviously, on the base pass, we've talked about that, them being a sloppy team on the base pass throughout the course of this season. There is the lack of hitting. And then you get to the question, does Boone put this team in the best possible position to win every single game? Do you feel like you have a distinct advantage when you look at Aaron Boone? Do you feel like he is a guy that's kind of ahead of the curve, or do you think that Aaron Boone is, I'm not going to say people describe him as a puppet. He's not a puppet. But do you look at Aaron Boone as a guy that's a good communicator with players? He's a good baseball man. He's grew up around the game. We know that dad played, brother played, all of these things. He played before, he suffered that significant knee injury and then ended up coming. But you look at all of that. Does Boone give you that advantage in the dugout? I think you can make an argument that he probably does not. I mean, that Aaron Boone is a good baseball manager. He doesn't provide a distinct advantage when you look at as a tactician in the dugout. Like, I still don't understand why Domingo Germán's out of that game last night. That made little to no sense. I don't understand it. You can look at it. They can explain it. They can rationalize it out after the game, however way you want. That made little to no sense. That bothered me last night watching that game, why Germán's out after 5+ innings of work when he was cruising along and threw 83 pitches. But, that's the way we're going here in Major League Baseball. But you can look at it, Maggie, and say, okay, well, there are things that Brian Cashman deserves blame for. Sure. I mean, we talked about it last offseason, right? We talked about it throughout the course of it. Everyone on this or in this organization, everyone deserves a touch of blame. So we can balance it out and say, well, how much blame does Cashman blame deserve? How much blame does Boone deserve? How much blame do the players obviously individually deserve? This is a frustrated group. I think they're completely stunned that they're sitting here after 60 games, just a couple games over the 500 mark. Hell, we talked to Ricky Ricardo last week, and he said coming out of Tampa, everyone to a man believed that they were going to go through this regular season like a hot knife through butter. So now we're looking at a team that's going through something that they probably never anticipated before. They're not driving the ball over the fence. The guys that they needed to be productive offensively are not producing. DJ LeMahieu looks like a shell of the player offensively that he was the past couple years here for the Yankees. And then you're looking at a team right now that is completely searching and pressing. So the question is, do they have the right guy in the dugout that is going to help them dig themselves out of this mental hole, this cavernous hole that they are in right now? Because that is what it is. Because as a Yankee fan, Maggie, it's one thing if you lose games and you say, okay, well, we're less talented then. I can't make the argument that this team is less talented than the Boston Red Sox. They are a sloppy team. They are a sloppy, bad baseball team. That is what this Yankee team has shown you through the first 60 games. So what the hell is going to cause them to wake up? Like, at what point in time? Is it the Minnesota Twins? I mean, what is it, the Baltimore Orioles? I mean, what is going to cause this team to all of a sudden find themselves and start playing better, crisp, clean baseball? Because it is an impossible, infuriating watch right now, watching this team go to the ballpark night in and night out and play at times despondent baseball.
Well, they're going to Minnesota, where one of the players and the former MVP just called out your superstar pitcher as the reason why he put himself over the top is because he's been using foreign substances on the baseball. Like, mentally, that's got to be weighing at least on Garrett Cole. I have to imagine being fingered like that and called out like that by Josh Donaldson has got to sit poorly with you. But you mentioned on the bases, like the 28 outs on the bases, which has just been crazy. I was reading this the other day because 12 of those outs have been at home. And you're like, well, okay, if they're making all these outs at home, maybe it's because they're being super aggressive on the bases, and that's why it's leading to all these outs. It's not. They're actually last in baseball in the percent of extra bases taken. So it's really not that they're playing this aggressive style. And quite frankly, the Red Sox are playing a very aggressive style. Like, the Red Sox are balls to the wall. Like, they are getting every ounce from their entire roster. And the Yankees just feel like every time they lose and getting swept by the Red Sox, like, they just left so much out there, Like, there was just so much more to be maximized. And the reason why I say, like, is Boone actually being allowed, I'll use air quotes there, to put out his best lineup every day? Because I'll just use, like, yesterday as an example. You've got Giancarlo Stanton, who is out of the starting lineup. He ends up pinch hitting and striking out crucial time of the game in the 8th. But you have Aaron Judge DHing. So that takes him out of right, even though you have an off day today and then another one later this week. So now you have, instead of Judge in right, Gardy in center, and Frazier in left, you've got Andujar in left, Gardy in center, and Frazier in right. So if you actually need to try to gun out a base runner at home, Aaron Judge to right field is one of the most dangerous people in Major League Baseball. He's one of their best defensive players. He's incredible. But I think because Stanton and because they're so worried about Judge getting injured, he's DHing. They don't have his arm. That gap happens between LeMahieu and Clint Frazier with the drop pop-up, and it's like a trickle-down effect. Does Aaron Boone even have an option to start Judge there and right? Is that being told, hey, we got to keep him as healthy as possible. We got to try to steal days here where we can, get him off his feet, whatever it is. And so it's hard to assign so much blame. Yeah, we can talk about bullpen management. It's a huge part about being a manager, and Aaron Boone has not distinguished himself in that way. But other things like simply the lineup. Is he having a say over whether or not Aaron Judge can be in right field last night? I don't think he can.
Well, no, I think there's a number of people that play a role into that. It's you want to look at lineup construction. You want to say that it's this culmination and it's collaborative for sure. I mean, there's no doubt. So I'm not putting that on who's available, who's not available. You know, everyone screams and hollers. The tweets go crazy when the lineup comes out. How is this guy not available? Well, the Yankees obviously are trying to play the long game here, and they're trying to keep their guys healthy, and that's fair. And that's not my biggest criticism when I look at Boone. You know what bothered me? Here's what bothered me. You know, and there were a lot of things this weekend that bothered me.
Well, because it's not just one thing.
Well,
that's wrong with it.
Friday night, right? Marwin Gonzalez hits a single up the middle to straightaway center field. Brett Gardner is so lax in attacking the baseball that Marwin Gonzalez decides to stretch a single into a double. He mishandles the ball. He's got no arm whatsoever. Gonzalez is sitting on second base. That's the problem when you look at this team. That is the problem. It's all these little things that have built up because they can't hit. They cannot hit. So all of these things that where the offense was able to make up, whether it be Boone deficiencies in the dugout, whether it be a bad start, whether it be a bad defense, all of these things, the offense always made up for it, right? So the offense can't make up for it this year because the lineup can't hit. They can't hit themselves out of a paper bag. So you're looking at these little things. That Gonzalez play and single on Friday night is kind of indicative of really, for me, watching this Yankee team all season long is, you know, the sloppiness in the little things that you watch on the approach, where Gonzalez stretches what should be a single into a double. It's an embarrassing play. Gardner mishandles the ball. He's got no arm to begin with, but it was his approach, not attacking the grounder up the middle. He was lollygagging to the grounder. Gonzalez took advantage of it, gets to second base. That's kind of indicative of where this Yankee team is their head is just completely up there, you know what. It really is. Time and time again, you've seen multiple examples of it or throughout the course of the year, and you say, well, what exactly is going to cause them to stop? Well, it's not all of a sudden they're going to wake up this morning and they're going to start hitting, right? It's not like Marcus Timms is going to say, hey, you know what? Here we go. This is what we need to do. So they've got to find a way. And Boone, it really, whether it be, he's not doing it publicly. Maybe he needs to do it privately. I mean, call this team out on the carpet and say, guys, listen, we got to find a different way here. There is a different path. We're not going to be the same run-producing team that we have been known for this year. So we've got to clean ourselves up defensively as best we can, even though we're limited. We've got to clean ourselves up on the base pass. The ground ball into double plays, they're leading Major League Baseball, and we've got to be a lot crisper and cleaner in the way that we play. We need to do it. We are capable of doing it. We need to do it because the offense, we keep on saying, when's it going to wake up? When's it going to wake up? Maggie, we're at game 60 here. We're going to be playing game 61 right around the corner, right? So we've got 102 games left to go in this regular season. The idea that now all of a sudden this offense is going to wake up and find it, you know what? It's not. I've come to the point here where it is not going to happen for this team, regardless whether they're playing at Camden Yards, Yankee Stadium, Minnesota. They're not all of a sudden going to start hitting home runs. You know, it was hot as a firecracker this weekend. The Yankees did nothing offensively consistently against the Boston Red Sox. So that is not going to happen. Boone, you know, and he's going to get a lot of criticism here because I don't know how long the Yankees can really stomach the idea of and if you're a Hal Steinbrenner, watching this team playing the sloppy baseball that they have played now through 60 games.
By my count, 58 double plays they've grounded into.
God,
3
terrible.
more on Sunday. I mean, it was rough out there. 877-337-6666.